5:32 a.m. A clock blinks. A bent car key lies in the gravel. A single earring glints in the dirt. And a scream that no one heard. June 27th, 1995. The morning Jodi Huisentruit, a rising TV star, stepped into the shadows of her own apartment parking lot and vanished. No witnesses. No ransom note. Just a trail of questions that still freeze the blood decades later. Was it a predator lying in wait? A secret she couldn't outrun? Or a ghost story that became tragically real? Strap in. This mystery isn't just cold, it's alive. The world is still asleep. A fog clings to the pavement as Jodi Huisentruit scrambles out the door, late for her shift at the news station. Her apartment door hangs open. A half-packed suitcase sits inside. Her coffee cools on the counter. She never makes it to her red Mazda, or does she? Minutes later, all that's left is a twisted key in the dirt, a single earring, and drag marks trailing into oblivion. No scream, no struggle, just silence. For 27 years, this moment has taunted investigators, tormented loved ones, and fueled nightmares. How does a woman, bright, beloved, seen by thousands every morning, evaporate into thin air? Was it a stranger's ambush? A calculated betrayal? Or a secret buried so deep, even the Iowa cornfields refused to give it up? This is the enigma of Jodi Huisentruit. A vanishing act so flawless, it feels like a magic trick gone wrong. To the viewers of Mason City, Iowa, Jodi Huisentruit wasn't just a morning news anchor. She was sunlight cutting through the static of pre-dawn TV screens. At 27, she'd clawed her way into the spotlight, trading small-town Minnesota roots for a rising career at KIMT. Her laugh crackled through the studio. Her charm turned mundane weather reports into must-watch moments. Colleagues called her a human sparkler. Viewers mailed fan letters. But behind that radiant smile, a grind. Early mornings, lonely nights, a life balanced on the edge of almost making it. Then came June 27th, 1995, 5:20 a.m. Her alarm blares too late. A groggy voice calls a friend. "I overslept. Can you give me a wake-up knock?" 10 minutes later, she's racing downstairs, makeup half done, hair damp. Her red Mazda Miata waits in the parking lot. But Jodi never reaches it. What's left isn't a crime scene. It's a riddle. A bent car key, warped like it was yanked from the ignition by force. A single earring, its twin never found. A half-packed suitcase suggesting she planned to flee, or someone else did. And those drag marks, for feet long, slicing through gravel, as if the earth itself tried to swallow her whole. But here's what guts you. Jodi wasn't some naive newcomer. She'd done stories on stalkers, on safety. She knew the risks of being a woman alone in the dark. So why did she sprint headfirst into that parking lot? Was it habit? Trust in a familiar routine? Or did she hear a voice she recognized, a face she never thought to fear? The truth is, Jodi's not just a victim. She's a mirror, a reflection of every woman who's ever fumbled with her keys in an empty lot, laughed off a creepy comment, or shrugged away a shiver down her spine. Her story isn't about what vanished that morning. It's about what remains, a coffee cup gone cold, a career frozen in time, and a question that haunts every small town's shadowy corners. How well do we really know the people we wave to every morning? It was a parking lot frozen in time. June 27th, 1995, 6:30 a.m. The first cop on the scene said it felt wrong. Not chaotic, not violent. Just empty. Jodi's red Mazda Miata sat under the gray Iowa dawn, driver's door slightly ajar. A set of keys lay twisted in the gravel, bent at a violent angle. A single gold hoop earring glinted nearby, half buried in dirt. A few feet away, for parallel drag marks gouged the earth, trailing off toward the road. No blood, no fingerprints, no scream caught on tape, just fragments of a life interrupted. This wasn't a crime scene. It was a ghost story written in clues no one could decipher. Let's start with the car. The Mazda's interior held eerie contradictions. Jodi's purse sat on the passenger seat, untouched. Her credit cards, cash ID, all there. But her lipstick? Rolled into the footwell. A compact mirror lay shattered near the gas pedal. The ignition was scratched raw, as if someone had wrestled the key free. Yet the car itself showed no signs of a fight. No torn upholstery, no broken glass. It looked less like a struggle and more like a pause, as if whatever happened fast. Then there's the suitcase. Back in her apartment, investigators found it half-packed. A few blouses neatly folded, toiletries lined up beside it, a plane ticket to Minnesota tucked in the side pocket, a weekend trip to see family. But here's what keeps detectives up at night. Her toothbrush was still in the bathroom. Her makeup bag sat open on the counter. Her coffee mug half full. This wasn't someone who planned to vanish. This was someone who expected to come home. But the most haunting detail? Those drag marks. 4 feet long. Uneven, like someone heavy had been pulled, or something heavy had been dragged. Cops followed them to the edge of the parking lot, where they vanished into asphalt. No tire tracks. No footprints. Just nothing. As if Jodi had been lifted off the face of the earth. For weeks, Mason City police clung to the hope that this was a kidnapping. A ransom call that never came. They drained Spring Lake, just blocks from her apartment, murky water swirling down iron grates as divers probed the silt. Nothing. They combed cornfields, interviewed sex offenders, tracked down every red Mazda in 3 states. Dead ends. Even the FBI profile was vague. Likely a lone offender. Someone comfortable with violence. Or someone she trusted. But here's where logic crumbles. If this was a random attack, a predator lurking in the dark, why leave her purse? Why take the risk of dragging a conscious, fighting woman across an open parking lot? And why Jodi? She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't tangled in scandals. She was, as one detective put it, the girl next door who didn't lock her doors. Unless it wasn't random. Let's talk about the stalker theory. In the weeks before her disappearance, Jodi told friends about a man who'd called the station repeatedly, angry when she wouldn't take his messages. He knows things, she allegedly said to a coworker. Where I eat lunch, what I wear. But here's the problem. No one ever found proof. No letters, no voicemails, just secondhand whispers that dissolved under scrutiny. Was this a real threat? Or a shadow we've painted onto the story to make sense of the senseless? Then there's the timeline. Between 5:20 a.m., when Jodi called her friend, and 6 a.m., when a neighbor reported hearing a car door slam, something happened. But in that 40-minute window, the world went dark. No security cameras, no eyewitnesses, just a stretch of time as empty as the parking lot they found. And what about the lack of blood? If Jodi was killed on site, where's the evidence? If she was taken alive, why no screams? No one, not the neighbor 3 doors down, not the jogger who passed by at 5:45, heard a thing. It's as if the universe hit mute at the exact moment she needed to be heard. This is the heart of the mystery. Most crimes leave a why, a jilted lover, a debt unpaid, a secret too heavy to carry. But Jodi's case is a void. No enemies, no red flags, just a woman who stepped out of her apartment one morning and became a question mark. But here's what you need to understand. The absence of evidence is the evidence. The precision of this disappearance, the way every clue feels deliberate, screams of calculation. This wasn't a panicked act. It was a plan. Someone watched. Someone waited. Someone knew her routine, her apartment layout, the blind spots in the parking lot. Someone knew her. Or did they? There's another angle. What if Jodi was collateral damage? A 1995 FBI memo briefly linked her case to 2 serial killers prowling the Midwest at the time. One hunted nurses. Another preyed on sex workers. Neither fit Jodi's profile. But killers evolve. They adapt. And sometimes they slip. Could she have been a victim of opportunity, wrong place, wrong time, with a killer smart enough to leave no trace? But without a body, without DNA, it's all guesswork. Even the best theories are just smoke. So where does that leave us? With a case colder than an Iowa winter. With a family who still lights a candle every June 27th. With cops who retire, take pensions, but keep Jodi's file in their basements. With amateur sleuths scouring Google Earth, convinced they'll spot her earring in a satellite image. And with you, sitting there right now wondering, how does someone disappear so completely in a world filled with noise, with people, with light? Maybe that's the scariest part. Jodi's story isn't about monsters in the dark. It's about the ordinary moments that become traps. The routines we think keep us safe. The trust we place in every sunrise. Her case forces us to ask the unthinkable. Could this happen to me? Could I, like Jodi, become a collection of clues that lead nowhere? The answer terrifies because it's yes. But here's what they don't tell you about cold cases. They're not dead. They're dormant, waiting for one phone call, one confession, one slip of the tongue. Until then, Jodi Huisentruit remains a paradox. A woman who was everywhere on TV, yet vanished into the one story no one can solve. It starts with a phone call. 2:47 a.m. The station's front desk line rings. A producer picks up, half asleep. "Let me talk to Jodi." A man's voice, raspy, calm, wrong. When the producer refuses, the voice tightens. "Tell her I'm watching." Tell her I know where she parks. Click. This wasn't a one-time threat. In the weeks before her disappearance, Jodi told co-workers about him. A man who called the station daily, demanding to speak to her. A man who knew her schedule, when she arrived at work, where she grabbed lunch, even the route she jogged around Clear Lake. He knows things, she confided to a friend. He said he'd make me famous or make me disappear. But here's the problem, no one ever saw him. No letters, no voicemails saved. Just Jodi's growing unease scribbled in her planner. Creepy caller again. Told security. They said to ignore it. Then, on the morning she vanished, a local fisherman swore he saw a man lingering near her apartment parking lot. Hoodie pulled low, hands shoved in pockets, standing too still, like he was waiting for a bus that never came. By the time police interviewed the fisherman, his description was vague. Average height, maybe a beard. White, Hispanic? I don't know, it was dark. Without a name or face, the stalker became a ghost. A convenient villain for a town desperate for answers. But let's dissect this theory. If the stalker was real, why no physical trace? No fingerprints on her car. No footprints near the drag marks. No witnesses beyond the fisherman, whose story wobbled under pressure. Even Jodi's apartment showed no signs of forced entry. No jimmied locks, no shattered windows. If this man was obsessed, how did he stay so invisible? Unless he wasn't a stranger. Think about it. Stalkers crave contact. They escalate. They leave trophies, a rose on a windshield, a note taped to a door. But Jodi's case? Nothing. Just whispers and a phantom in a hoodie. That doesn't fit the profile. It feels staged. Like maybe the idea of a stalker was a smokescreen. Or worse, a distraction. Consider this twist. What if the stalker wasn't targeting Jodi, but someone used the stalker rumors to cover their tracks? Imagine a killer who knew about the creepy calls, who leaned into the town's paranoia to muddy the investigation. A killer who let everyone chase shadows while they slipped away clean. But here's the kicker. In 2002, 7 years after Jodi vanished, a man named John Van Sees, a convicted sex offender living in Iowa, confessed to her murder. He claimed he'd been obsessed with her, that he'd snatched her that morning. But his story unraveled. He got dates wrong, locations wrong. Cops found zero ties between him and Jodi. He was just another lonely voice in the noise. So where does that leave us? With a paradox. The stalker theory is too flimsy to solve the case, but too persistent to ignore. Because whether real or imagined, Jodi believed he existed. And fear changes behavior. It makes you check locks twice. It makes you sprint to your car. It makes you vulnerable. Maybe that's the point. If the stalker was real, he didn't just want to harm Jodi. He wanted to control her. To turn her life into a funhouse mirror of dread. And in the end, he succeeded. Because every time we replay her last moments, we're staring into that mirror too. But here's what keeps me up at night. What if the stalker was someone she knew? Someone who wore a mask of normalcy by day. A coworker, a neighbor, a fan who'd shaken her hand at a charity event and peeled it off in the dark? Someone who didn't need to force his way in because Jodi recognized his voice when he called her name that morning? We'll never know. Without evidence, the stalker remains a silhouette, a shadow we can't outrun. And maybe that's the cruelest twist of all. Jodi's story forces us to trust the instincts she ignored, even as it proves how deadly those instincts can be. A newsroom, fluorescent lights buzzing, coffee steaming in chipped mugs, laughter ringing over the clatter of keyboards. Jodi Huisentruit's world was a tight-knit circle of co-workers, people who knew her routines, her quirks, her secrets. People who could walk into her apartment without knocking. People who knew exactly when she'd be alone in a dim parking lot at 5:30 a.m. This is the theory that splits families, divides towns, and turns friendships into crime scenes. What if someone Jodi trusted, a colleague, a friend, a confidant, used that trust to erase her? Let's start with the facts. In the weeks before her disappearance, Jodi's schedule was no secret. As the morning anchor, her routine was clockwork. Up at 4 a.m., out the door by 5:15, at the studio by 5:30. But here's the catch, she wasn't alone. A co-worker, whose name we'll withhold out of fairness, often offered to swing by her apartment if she overslept. "Just call me," he'd reportedly said. "I'll bang on your door." And she did. On June 27th, after waking up late, Jodi phoned that co-worker in a panic. "Can you come knock? I'm running behind." He agreed. But here's where things get murky. He claims he drove to her place, pounded on her door, got no answer, and left. No one saw him. No security cameras caught his car. just his word against the void. To investigators, this man was a puzzle. Well-liked at the station, no criminal record, but some co-workers noted an unhealthy interest in Jodi. He'd linger at her desk after shifts, show up uninvited to her softball games. Once, according to a source, he joked darkly, "If I can't have her, no one will." Was it a twisted gag or a confession? But here's the problem: alibis. The co-worker insisted he was home after leaving Jodi's apartment. His wife backed him up. Phone records placed calls from his landline around 6 a.m. Solid? Maybe, but not airtight. Iowa in 1995 didn't have GPS. No ring cameras, no digital trails, just humans vouching for humans. Then there's the jealousy angle. Jodi was climbing fast, her charm winning awards, her face becoming synonymous with KIMT News. Meanwhile, this co-worker's career had stalled. Resentment simmers in quiet corners. Could envy have curdled into something monstrous? Or was this another dead end, another shadow blamed for the crime? Let's dig deeper. After Jodi vanished, this co-worker became different, withdrawn, agitated. He quit the station 6 months later, telling friends he couldn't take the whispers. When police re-interviewed him in 2002, he refused a polygraph. "I've got nothing to hide," he said, "but I won't play their game." Suspicious? Absolutely. Proof? Zero. But here's what's chilling. This man wasn't the only friendly suspect. Another colleague admitted to driving past Jodi's apartment that morning, claiming he was worried when she didn't answer her phone. A neighbor mentioned seeing a familiar car idling near the lot around 5:45 a.m., a vehicle matching one owned by a station intern. Even Jodi's ex-boyfriend, who lived out of state, faced scrutiny. But alibis held. Stories stuck. So why does this theory cling like a stain? Because it's human nature to fear betrayal. To wonder if the person who hands you coffee every morning could also hand you a death sentence. Let's play it out. Imagine you're Jodi. You're rushing downstairs, keys in hand, hair still wet. You're late, flustered, distracted. Then you hear a voice you know. Need a ride? Or forgot your bag? You turn. You let your guard down. Because it's them. The person who's covered your shifts. Who remembers your birthday. Who's harmless. Until they're not. But without evidence, this is all just a ghost story. Police found no DNA linking co-workers to her car or apartment. No sudden purchases of shovels or duct tape. No damning letters or diary entries. Just hunches. Still, let's ask the ugly question. Could law enforcement have missed something? In 1995, small-town cops weren't versed in stalker psychology or digital forensics. They focused on strangers, not friends. What if a critical clue, a witness, a footprint, a slip of the tongue, was brushed aside because it pointed too close to home? One detail haunts me. 2 days before she vanished, Jodi's co-worker borrowed her spare key. He claimed he needed to grab a file from her desk. She handed it over, no questions asked. The key was returned the next day. But here's the kicker. After her disappearance, that key went missing. No one knows where it is. Coincidence? Or a thread pulled from the tapestry? We'll never know. The co-worker died in 2015, taking his secrets to the grave. His family insists he was innocent, that he grieved for Jodi, that the rumors broke him. But grief isn't proof of guilt or innocence. This is the curse of the friend theory. It's built on maybes and might-haves, on the unshakable truth that the people closest to us are the ones who can hurt us the most. Jodi's case forces us to wonder, how well do we really know anyone? The coworker who jokes too loudly? The neighbor who's always offering help? The friend who knows your schedule better than you do? In the end, this angle isn't about answers. It's about fear. The kind that festers in small towns and quiet hallways. The kind that makes you lock your door, even when you recognize the knock. What if Jodi Huisentruit's disappearance wasn't an isolated tragedy, but a single note in a killer's symphony? Between 1993 and 1995, the Midwest was a hunting ground. Young women vanished along highways, in parking lots, outside grocery stores. Some turned up in ditches. Others never did. And two names keep resurfacing in the darkest corners of this mystery. Robert Ben Rhodes, the truck stop killer, and John Edward Robinson, the slave master. Both roamed Iowa and neighboring states. Both preyed on women in their 20s. Both left scenes as clean as Jodi's. Let's start with Rhodes, a long-haul trucker with a torture chamber in his rig. He'd pick up victims at rest stops, promising rides or cash for odd jobs. Once they were in his cab, handcuffs clicked. Cameras rolled. And when he was done, He buried his secrets in shallow graves across the heartland. In 1995, Rhodes was already a suspect in multiple murders. His route? A spiderweb of highways connecting Iowa, Illinois, Missouri. Mason City sits at the center. Then there's Robinson, a businessman by day, statist by night. He lured women through fake job ads, promising clerical work or modeling gigs. Once they arrived, he'd chain them in storage lockers, farmhouses, even his suburban basement. By 1995, he'd already killed at least 8 women. His signature? Leaving no trace. No blood. No fibers. Just empty cars and families left screaming. Now, the chilling overlap. Both men were active in June 1995. Both targeted women who matched Jodi's profile. White, mid-20s, trusting. Both had the skill to vanish a body. But here's where the theory frays. Rhodes preferred truck stops and hitchhikers. Jodi wasn't either. Robinson operated in Kansas City, 200 miles south of Mason City. No records place him in Iowa that month. And crucially, neither killer left survivors. If Jodi was their victim, why no taunting letters? No photos sent to police? No bragging in jailhouse interviews? Still, investigators dug. In 1998, FBI agents re-examined Rhodes' rig for traces of Jodi's DNA. Nothing. In 2003, after Robinson's arrest, cops grilled him about unsolved Midwest disappearances. He smirked. Prove it. They couldn't. But absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Let's talk logistics. June 27, 1995, a Tuesday. Truckers like Rhodes would have been refueling, grabbing coffee, killing time before dawn. Could he have spotted Jodi rushing to her car, assumed she was a stranded motorist and struck? Or Robinson, a master manipulator? What if he'd placed a fake ad for a TV producer job, lured Jodi to a meeting, and intercepted her that morning? It's possible. But here's the catch. Serial killers thrive on patterns. Rhodes liked to document his crimes. Robinson kept trophies. Jodi's case doesn't fit their rituals. No body, no taunts, no signature. Unless she was an experiment, a first kill, a trial run for a predator still learning his craft. Or worse, a copycat. Someone who'd studied these monsters and mimicked their methods to throw off the scent. But without a body, without a crime scene, it's all whispers. Even the FBI's behavioral analysis unit admits. The lack of forensic overlap suggests Jodi's case is an outlier. But outliers exist. So where does that leave us? With a question that chills to the bone. Was Jodi the victim of a killer so skilled, so practiced, that he turned her into a ghost? Or was she taken by someone far more ordinary, hiding in the shadow of these monsters? The answer might be both. Because the scariest part of this theory isn't the serial killers. It's the realization that there could be more like them. Men who blend in. Men who learn from the worst. Men who turn highways into graveyards and parking lots into traps. Jodi's case forces us to confront a truth we'd rather ignore. Evil isn't always a headline. Sometimes it's a stranger in a truck, a businessman with a briefcase, a face you'd forget by sunrise. And by the time you realize what they are, you're already gone. Let's ask the unthinkable. What if Jodi Huisentruit wanted to disappear? It's a theory that splits true crime forums and family dinners alike. After all, we've all fantasized about it. Ditching our lives, shedding our names, vanishing into the wind. But Jodi, the woman who lit up every room? The friend who never missed a birthday? The anchor who lived for the spotlight? The idea feels impossible. But impossible doesn't mean untrue. Let's start with the argument for. Jodi's life wasn't all camera lights and fan mail. Behind the smile was a grind. 4 a.m. wake-ups. Grueling deadlines. The pressure to stay on. Bubbly, flawless, likable in a cutthroat industry. Friends said she complained about burnout. I'm exhausted, she told one coworker. I just want to sleep for a year. Then there's the suitcase. Half-packed in her apartment. A plane ticket to Minnesota tucked inside. Was she planning a weekend trip or a one-way escape? Supporters of this theory point to her career ambitions. Jodi had applied to bigger markets, Chicago, Denver. But what if the rejections piled up? What if the girl next door was tired of playing the part? And the lack of evidence, no blood, no body. Could that be deliberate? A staged scene to throw off investigators? A bent key, a dropped earring, drag marks sketched with a shovel. A perfect illusion. But here's the problem, Jodi wasn't a ghost. She was a human. To vanish in 1995, you needed cash. Connections. A plan. Yet her bank accounts sat untouched. Her credit cards never pinged. Her passport gathered dust. Even her beloved red Mazda stayed behind. If this was a disappearing act, why leave every tool for survival in the wings? Then there's the biggest hole in this theory. Jodi didn't say goodbye. Her sister, Joanne, still has the voicemail Jodi left days before she vanished. "Let's go to the lake this weekend," she says, voice bright. "I'll bring the beer." Her calendar was filled. Dinner dates, a friend's wedding, a charity 5K. Her closet held a new dress, tags still on. This isn't someone plotting an exit. This is someone living. But let's play devil's advocate. What if the stress broke her? What if the stalker calls pushed her to a breaking point? What if she faked her own abduction to escape a life that felt like a cage? It's been done before. In 1985, flight attendant Kathleen Crowley staged her kidnapping to flee debt. In 2016, Sherry Papini faked her abduction to hide an affair. Both left trails of lies. Both got caught. Could Jodi have pulled it off better? Maybe. But here's the catch. Those women wanted to be found. They left clues. They craved attention. Jodi, if she's out there, she's a ghost. No birthday cards to her mom. No drunken late-night calls. No slip-ups in 29 years. That's not hiding, that's erasure. And what about the risk? Jodi wasn't naive. She knew disappearing would devastate her family. Her parents died without answers. Her siblings still beg for closure. Could the woman who sent flowers to her grandma every week really inflict that kind of pain? Her friends say no. Jodi loved hard, one said. She'd never leave us wondering. But let's dig deeper. In 1995, vanishing was harder. No Bitcoin, no dark web, no burner phones. To start over, you needed paper cash, fake IDs, a network of silence. Jodi was a small-town girl with big city dreams, not a criminal mastermind. Where would she learn to hack a new identity? Who would help her? Unless she had help. There's a darker twist here. What if Jodi didn't act alone? What if someone, a lover, a mentor, a confidant, smuggled her out of Mason City, gave her a new name, a new life? It's a romantic idea, a secret guardian angel. But romantic ideas rarely survive reality. After 29 years, the odds are brutal. Most people who fake their deaths crack under guilt or loneliness. They Google their own names. They slip up. They return. Jodi's silence isn't just suspicious, it's superhuman. But here's the truth. We want this theory to be real, because it's softer than the alternative. It lets us imagine Jodi on a beach somewhere, sipping margaritas under an alias, finally free. It turns a tragedy into a fairy tale. Her family hates this. "It's disrespectful," her brother once said. It turns her into a villain instead of a victim. And maybe that's the point. When we can't solve a mystery, we rewrite it. We twist the facts until they fit a story we can swallow. Jodi's case forces us to confront a truth we'd rather avoid. Sometimes people don't choose to disappear. Sometimes the world swallows them whole. So let's end with a question. If you could ask Jodi one thing, anything, what would it be? Who took you? Why you? Or maybe, are you still out there? The answer might haunt us either way. There's a bench in Mason City's Central Park. Bronze plaque chipped at the edges. Jodi Huisentruit, always in our light. Every morning, the sunrise hits it just so, warming the metal where her name's engraved. But by noon, the shadow of a pine tree swallows it whole. Fitting, isn't it? A memorial that flickers between hope and oblivion, just like her case. 29 years. Cold cases usually fade. Dusty files. Retired detectives. Families forced to mourn in silence. But Jodi's story? It breaths. Podcasts dissect it. Documentaries revive it. Strangers in online forums pick at clues like vultures circling roadkill. Why? Because this isn't just a mystery, it's a mirror. A reflection of every small town's darkest question. How many secrets do these streets hide? Take the podcasters first. Amateur sleuths with Spotify microphones and Patreon accounts. They swarm Mason City every June, retracing Jodi's last steps, interviewing bartenders who weren't born in '95, scouring the same parking lot with flashlights and GoPros. They'll tell you they're close to a breakthrough. They're not. But they keep coming because Jodi's case is a siren song, a riddle that promises fame to whoever cracks it first. Then there's the DNA. In 2018, a lab offered to test the earring found near her car. New technology, they said. A chance to ID a killer from skin cells older than some of Jodi's fans. Her family agreed. For months, they held their breath. The result? Inconclusive. Just like the partial palm print on her car door. Just like the hair stuck in her suitcase. But here's what's worse than dead ends: false hope. In 2021, A psychic emailed police claiming Jodi's body was buried under a barn near Clear Lake. Volunteers dug for days. They found rusted tools, a deer skeleton, a Coke bottle from 1982. No Jodi. In 2023, a TikTok trend had teens lip-syncing to news clips of her disappearance, using her face as a backdrop for dance routines. "We're keeping her memory alive," they argued. Her brother replied, "Stop turning my sister into a hashtag." Yet through the noise, one truth remains. Someone knows. A neighbor who heard a scream but bit their tongue. A classmate who remembers a cryptic joke. A lover who lied on an alibi. Maybe even the killer, now gray and frail, whispering the story to a grandchild who doesn't listen. And the police? They haven't quit. Boxes of evidence fill a storage room in the Mason City PD. Her toothbrush, her Rolodex, the bent key sealed in plastic. Every few years, a new detective inherits the file. They review it. They re-interview the fisherman, the ex-boyfriend, the co-worker with the shaky alibi. They leave with the same conclusion. This person is hiding something, but we can't prove it. So why does it still haunt us? Because Jodi's case is a crack in the world. A reminder that evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a car door closing softly, a figure melting into fog, a secret kept for decades by someone who still shops at your grocery store, pumps gas beside you, votes in your elections. Her sister Joan puts it best. "Every birthday, I set a plate for her. Every Christmas, I buy her a gift. Because what if she walks through that door? What if she's been trapped somewhere waiting? I can't let go. Not until I know." But time is the cruelest detective. Witnesses die. Memories blur. Evidence degrades. Yet Jodi's bench still sits in that park, ice clinging to its edges in winter, dandelions sprouting through its cracks in spring. A monument to the unbearable truth. Some stories don't end. They just linger. So tonight, when you lock your doors, glance over your shoulder. Think of Jodi. Think of the someone who knows. And ask yourself, what would you do with a secret that heavy? In the dark, a parking lot, a bent key, a woman who stepped out of her life and into a void. 29 years later, we're still standing in that lot, staring at the same question. Who did this? Was it a stranger with a knife and a truck bed full of secrets? A friend who wore a mask for years, only to rip it off in one violent moment? Or did Jodi herself decide to become a ghost, trading her future for a secret too heavy to share? Here's the truth. Every theory is a candle in the wind. It flickers. It dances. It throws shadows on the wall. But blow it out, and all you're left with is the dark. Maybe that's why this case won't die. It's not just about Jodi anymore. It's about the parking lots we all hurry through. The strangers we pretend not to see. The friends we swear we know. Her story forces us to admit how little we control. How easily a single morning can unravel into a lifetime of maybe. So I'll ask you one last time. Look at the clues. The stalker's whispers. The coworker's shaky alibi. The serial killers who slipped through the cracks. The suitcase packed for a trip she never took. What's your verdict? A predator? A plot? Or a magic trick gone wrong? Whatever you believe, remember this. Somewhere out there, someone knows. They've carried the truth for decades. In their guts, in their nightmares, in the way they flinch when Jodi's face flashes on the news. Maybe they're watching this right now. Maybe they're smiling. Maybe they're sweating. But until that truth cracks open, Jodi's story will keep haunting us. Not as a cautionary tale, but as a warning. A warning that monsters aren't just in the shadows. They're in the sunlight. They're in the newsroom. They're in the mirror. So hit subscribe. Share your theory. And the next time you're running late, keys in hand, dawn breaking at your back, pause. Listen to the silence. Because the scariest mysteries aren't the ones we solve. They're the ones that solve us.